irate to all upon a come liability that of. Hey people, I found a word that really opens some stuff up. This is liability. And if you look at the little dots underneath here, this means the second vowel, these two dots lined up, which is the I. And if they're turned the other way, it's the second vowel, which is the E. And it's the two pronunciations from the Egyptian is where this comes from. The first, second, and third vowel, the A and the I and the U is the first, second, and third vowels. And so E, is to do it again, to re-up. Oh, Peter Wade, your Facebook friend, been watching my channel, and he asked me to do better translation and write it, but this can't be translated. It's like trying to translate a rap song. They choose all the words in them rap lyrics for their sound, for their rhyme, and if you was to try to translate it in any other language, it wouldn't be rap anymore. So this is ancient English, and this is where your word liability comes from. And the liability, thought of, and thought of is sin. It's a sin to think. Do not think that is sin. And so Thoth is the Egyptian moon god. Moon is sin, and that's where they're getting that from. But all upon a come liability that of. And so not necessarily so that not you may sin, just think of the liabilities, what it might cost you, thought of. And so that's when I look at this. I used to do movies and try to read all these marks, and it makes it way too confusing. I'm sure it's way too confusing for you. Sometimes I look down at the vowel points just to get it, and you see it. This is an L, and the dots are an I, and then the B, and the A, and the L, and the I, and the T, the liability that of. And so this is Exodus 20, and it comes right after. This is the last of the 10 Commandments, and Moses comforts his people in 18:19. And you see how the line just before this ended, is, the A word reading backwards, and from yell upon them what? They didn't want God yelling at them, lest we will die, from yell upon them what? Well, I die if he yells at me. And so they're getting this die from two different places here. One of them is moot. Moot. Shut him up, make him not talk anymore. But if you're reading it with the mark here, it's upon a tomb, T-U-M-N, the tuminum, the tuminum what? Put them in a tomb, the tuminum what? Dead. So this word Moses here is never Moses. You see it come up different ways. I think the one above here is in the yammer, in the word W-L, the will, and read these A words backwards. And will-am, them, see. In the word will-am, see. And sometimes it's talking about the queen, and that's what it's talking about right here, and they totally try to hide that. And so this word yammer, it means I am, and that's God, I am, and I am R-U-L, and I am rulam, and said of her. That's where they get word out of this, the said of her. And I am rulam, said of her. And then backwards, et, the said of her et. And so that comes from ancient Egyptian, the eta. You see it on the end of the feminine counterparts of the gods, were the ets, the women. You see it here with the gods and their counterparts. The counterpart has the same name, and they just add this egg in this loaf of bread, and et, the same name, and add the et to it. Same as the French, they add the E-T-T-E to the end to make it feminine, the et. And it's the same in the Hebrew. The man is the ass, and the woman is asset. She's your asset. And Asset was the woman of Egypt. And I am rulam, seteveret. The seteveret. I am the wife of the ruler. And then when you're reading it with this mark, you don't read the A words backwards anymore. And it's, then yammer and the word connected, vav, to all ism. The word to all ism, the sedever. And so then it reads backwards again with the mark here. And that's sedever et. And it becomes it, and then at, and then HOM, the home new. And the word to all ism, ism is a belief. The word to all ism, the sedever, it at home new. My home people, the ones that understood the word. And so when I started this, I was looking for patterns where I could find in the English so I could get something out of the King James Bible, but it's just not there. You can catch it a little bit after much study and years of study when they said to, but they'll change this up. It's not always the same. So when they said to Moses, speak you with us, and I am rule set over it. And then down below here, and the yammer, and the word and sell. We read it the first time with the A words backwards, so, and I am rulem sell, and yammerum sell, and the wordum sell, and then the A reading with this E here is ES, and the word of them sells them. And so that's, your preachers selling your word, and your politicians, they trying to sell you a bunch of words, and the word sells them. And then this little squiggly line up here, they use it in a bunch of the Latin languages in Mediterranean. And so when you see it directly above this M, it means to take the last letter and move it over so it's HOMO. The same people. But when you see it hanging out at the end like this, it means grab the last two letters and read them again. The home, And so, in the word sells, and then OM, L, Omil. And so Omil is the guy who's wearing rags and doing the hardest labor. He works for a meal. He don't make enough money to buy clothes. And sometimes you see it all together, the OML, and they'll give it the correct translation. And so and Yammerum sells a mill, and then a tire of. A mill, a tire of. So the guy who's working his ass off, he's tired of hearing all that yammer. And it's also the one who's speaking is a mill, a tire of. He's dressed up in a mill attire. He's dressed up in rags. And if you ever see me at work, I'm a mill. I dress in rags and I work my ass off. And a mill, a tire of sea. I'm tired of seeing that bullshit. The love of where? LV. LV is the love of wear in suit, make to, and would love to be wearing a suit. And the BA is usually in, but it's the B is the V, and it's the VAE is the VES, and it's to fill. And what do you fill? You fill a vessel, the vessel hymn. Looks like the same word, they just give it to and that, and that's all. There's so many words they just give to and that, but this is above her here, and here it's the love of where, and here it's above where, and above where tie, the tie. That's what they're wearing in the suits, and it's spelt with the T, the mark, and I to see the tie. And irate to all, making panem come liability that of. And yammerum sells 'em a mill, a tire of. The sea love of wearing suit make to. The vessel him of above wear tie. Irate to all making. To all upon 'em come. I messed up that last one. I believe I read this backwards first. I was reading this, Mark. But all upon 'em come. And so this all upon 'em come liability that of. If you look down here, it's, the P is the F. And it's the F-I-N-E. The fine. And all fine. And I-C. I-C is, all finest. And I believe the three dots like this represents the H, which is a vowel too. And you see in the Greek and the Hebrew it's used as the E. And it's also the CH. And all fine is come. CHM to come. And all fine is come, a liability that of. And when you're reading it the other way, it's the Yamarum seal. And the seal, the seals of Solomon, the secret words that are sealed, the Yamarum seal, the M-O, the purpose, the modus operandum, what that person is used for. And what's your M-O? Well, I swing knives for the government. I'm a swordsman. And the Yammer and the wordum seal, the purpose, the homo, the same from, the homoum, the same from all, the war it, and do not fear. That's where they're getting that from, the war it, tire of, the war attire of, wearing soldier's uniform, the war attire of, the killing of where, kill, the killing of where in suit at come. It has come that time, and the war and attire of killing of where in suit at come. And so it came time they decided we got to kill all these politicians because they've all sold us out. And so the vessel hymn is also the vasilium. That's where in the church, the vasilium of over. And so that's when the church was over, not the government. The government was the church. And the vasilium of over tie, irate to all the to make in panem come liability that of. And they will pay for their sins. And that's why they don't want people to be able to read this, because it's telling a story about how they overthrew the government before. And when people finally wake up, when you wake up the sheep, and Omil finds out that, and he's tired of that shit, the killing of where, the killing of where ensue, to begin, ensued it come. And so it doesn't translate in any language, because then you wouldn't see the word, how they come together, in the suit, and ensue, in chase, in the begin the chase, ensue to come, ensue to it come. But, the biggest one you see here is where the word military comes from, and it was the people not do fear. The people not do fear. And Yamarum sells them, and then grab the last two again. Omil, O-M-L-A-T-I-R, a militaire of. And so Omil is putting on a different suit. And Yamarum sell 'em a militaire of, the killing of where ensue, to tick 'em. You look at the vowel underneath the T-I, the tick 'em. And, the time is come, the ticks. Ensue a tick 'em, the vesilium of over tie, irate of all finest come, the finest come liability that of. And so this word liability, I found it somewhere else in And so I went to reading ever it was, because it really helps when you make a word out good like this, that you really know what it means. It really helps to make out the rest of the words surrounding it. And then forth you learn new words you catch, and then you look at them, find where they come up, and that's how I learned to read this. But the first time this comes up is so that not was here in Genesis 3:11, when you done ate that shit I told you not to eat. And that really opens some stuff up. But you see it in all the liabilities. It's a liability. It didn't say you shouldn't eat. You're just going to have to take liability if you ate that. And in Genesis 4:5, it's not that you shouldn't kill Abel, but the liability that comes with it. And in 19, this is when Lot was leaving, and it's not that you can't look back, but the liability that you might turn to salt. And Genesis 38, I think that's Jacob there. I'll have to look closer into that. But this liability, it comes up 78 times in this spelling. This is the way it's used the most, and they give these other spellings, and it probably says the same thing. It's just the word before it, has the L-I in it, the liability, and it change up. It's not always liability, and this is how you break down and see what liability actually means when you find it pieced up like this, because it's going to change the wording. But it's the same place, as I'm liable to bust your ass. You're liable to get your ass busted if you mess with that liable. And I believe the first place I found it was the belt. And that's where that come from. You get the belt. That's where your liable comes from. But this here, Genesis 3:11, where it comes up first, this is really going to open some stuff up about that fruit that you shouldn't have ate. And I'm going to find another word in there that's going to send us back to Genesis 2, where the commandment was first laid down. And it's going to explain actually who laid that commandment down. But I'm going to cut this off here. Have a good day.